Hello and welcome to the podcast. Listeners, we come to you with some advice. Consider this a public service announcement. If you are planning a stay with a friend in an Airbnb at a midpoint between 3 tour dates, make sure that you check it is going to be a place solely for you both and not in fact a place above a lady's house, although she was quite nice and she did have a dog that occasionally let itself into our bit of the house.
Yes.
We went to Buxton with the best of intentions, to get out and explore the Peak District, to imbibe the views, to enjoy. What did we do? Well, Emslie dragged Parsons around the charity shops looking for a first edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone because I would like to retire, and we watched Bristol City versus Cardiff on a computer. Bliss.
Can I just say, I've never really been a big Potter head.
Harry Potter.
But because you've got me into the charity shop hunt for first editions, I now walk past charity shops thinking...
Could be a Potter in there.
But I don't know what I'm looking for, because I didn't pay attention when you told me.
That's mental.
I just look at them now randomly, like, what are you? Are you? Maybe, do you give off the vibe of one?
We went into upwards of 10 charity shops.
Yep. We know how to have fun.
We found... not quite a first edition of the Chamber of Secrets. Sure, I know my research. The valuable ones are your Philosopher's Stone. You're looking for the double wand on page 38.
Yes.
And you're looking for the first edition in the front of the book.
Yes.
And if you can find that, you're laughing.
Well, if you're not laughing, you're learning.
So that is how I spend my time. That's how we spent our time in Buxton. We did go to the...
Buxton's lovely, by the way. I should just say, very quick review, very early recommendation from us. Go to Buxton. It's lovely. It's like Bath, but younger.
And small?
And small. It's small.
It's small.
But it's nice. But you're obviously in the Peak District, so you can go into nature if you are that way inclined. But it was like, feels like...
-10.
The feels like temperature was -10.
And
so
that,
we decided against that,
really excitingly extended to our bedrooms as well.
Oh, good, yeah. There was one point where, and I really hope the Airbnb host...
She was lovely.
Because she was lovely. She offered... to have the heating on at some stage. She might not have turned it on in the evening because it's the first time I've ever had to wipe snow off of a pillow.
It was.
Before I got in. Yeah, I'll just crunch that open. There we go.
It was chilly, but we had a lovely time. We went into the library where you can stand in a spot in the library and shout.
Yes, there's a little dome in a library where if you stand in the middle, it all echoes and reverberates around. It makes you feel like you're having a breakdown, which is really appropriate stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, this episode is going to be quite tour-heavy chat, but that doesn't mean there's going to be failures.
There's going to be that was beautifully read in, and then I riffed on it in a really bad way as well. Look at us both failing.
We left the tour chat in Bristol. We just had a sold out one in Bristol. We were on to Falmouth, and I should say, where we are currently, Falmouth has been done.
Yes.
Nottingham has been done.
Yes.
The big Nottingham. We've talked about Nottingham a lot. We'll come on to it. Salford has been done.
Yes.
And Liverpool has been done.
And Glasgow.
And Edinburgh. Shit.
And we will update you with... There have been, I'm going to be honest, I know some of our tour chat has been quite dull.
Yes.
We have events. Things have happened. This is not going to be one of those episodes where we waffle on about the tour and you think, oh, for fuck's sake, we get it, you're on tour. No, there is an actual story.
Should we do a quick one of Falmouth and the fact that...
Yeah, so we basically said Falmouth was going to be... no one was going to come and it was going to be terrible. Well, surprise, people came and it wasn't terrible.
It was fantastic.
It was great fun. The fact people of Falmouth, one of the most artistic bunch, because in the show I get people to draw self-portraits. It's been a great way to learn about my audience. Wow.
Falmouth was incredible.
Falmouth was absolutely wonderful. Great venue, great theatre. It felt really proper and lovely. Then we moved from...
A nice surprise, we could call Falmouth.
Nice
we were expecting... Well, actually, we weren't expecting...
Well, because we knew what the ticket sales were the week before.
The day before.
The week before, the ticket sales were not good. But that week, it just suddenly increased and we had some... So if you were one of the people who came to watch us in Falmouth, thank you so much for coming. And it really means the world.
And thank God Falmouth hasn't got much on, because I'm sure that sort of bolstered.
That must have helped. But also, 3 for 3 at that point.
3 for 3.
Oh my God, hat-trick of good shows.
And then we get to the Scotland dates. Now, before we go on to the tour dates in Scotland, I need to address that I saw you in a state at the airport that I have never seen you in before. I wouldn't be friends with you if you were in that state.
Yes. I'm afraid, listeners, I sort of turned into one of those people, people who aren't organised.
Yes.
I turned into one of them very briefly.
So we booked parking together, as in separate cars. We drove, and it was an early start. The flight was at 8:30, maybe a bit earlier.
So we had to be there by about 6.
So we were there at 7.
And we were early people.
We were there,
we
at,
got
7.
There at 7.
Did you? You arrived at 7, did you?
Well, I arrived in my car at 7, then did a lap of the car park because Google Maps doesn't know where purple parking is, which is what we used. So it sent me on a lovely little loop around a £6 loop, because obviously you have to pay in and pay out. Then I went back in again, and managed to find it the second time because you were directing me. But there's not a chance in hell. There's no signpost for it.
Well, there was a sign for the Sofitel, which I did.
Yeah, which you said. But how, if you blink and you miss it, by the way, how are you supposed to know that purple parking exists?
Well, the Sofitel.
Generally? Yeah, but come on.
Well, I directed
you need a sign saying purple parking with an arrow. That's all I want from signage.
Agree. And then we arrived at the parking. So I was already there. I was covered, sorted. I then directed you in. I then tried to get into your car, and I've never seen anyone panic about trying to find the unlock button as much as you did.
I don't know where the unlock button is on my car, because no one ever gets in when I'm actually in it. We both get in at the same time. So I don't know where the unlock button is.
I got in. I directed you. We turned up to the parking desk, and the guy went, "Yeah, you booked this for a week."
And we only needed 3 days, listeners. We weren't going for a week. We were going for 3. It was basically, I think it was Tuesday to Friday, Wednesday to Friday.
We were doing Wednesday to Friday.
Wednesday to Friday. I'd booked Friday the next week. I was wondering why it was more expensive than yours.
He then went, "You've booked this for a week, so we'll return your car in a week."
Yeah.
And you said, no, I need it this Friday. And he turned your phone round, pointed at the date, and just went, "Really?
Are you thick?
Are you
Are you
thick?
thick? This is what you've done." It was very much, he just went, "This is what you've done. Now it's your job to clean it up. We're not gonna give you your money back. You've paid for it now.
Yeah.
And now I'll just spend probably upwards of right, listeners. I'm going to say one thing. I had a impatient Emslie next to me.
Impatient, not there.
Not there, but you were before. You were like, "Come on, we need to hurry up. We're going to get through." You gave me the hurry up before I'd even arrived at the airport.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you had.
No, not before.
In the car.
No, I didn't give you the hurry
in the
up
car,
then.
You were like, we might be a bit late here.
No, I didn't say that.
Might be a bit late.
I gave you the hurry up when you had messed around with your parking, got the parking sorted. Then you were sort of like, "I've not got missed," and I went, "Mate, we do have to get through. As long as we get through security, let's go and do that."
Yeah.
And to be fair,
which added to the fluster. I've just been flustered, right? I've just been flustered. I need to get my stuff, and I've got him in my ear going, "Yeah, it's going to take ages for us to get through." It took us about 15 minutes, by the way, listener.
But
we were there for about 45 minutes before we got on the aeroplane.
We smashed it, to be fair, in terms of like the amount of time spent there. But you did get pulled up because you had my tripod in your case.
Yes, I had your tripod in my case, which meant that we didn't get through security. I then left my watch at security.
Oh, yes!
Which was great.
I have never...
And I didn't know that until about 10 minutes after. Thank God we had about an hour left.
You just bought a coffee, so I went off to a different place to get some porridge. You went to Pret. I walked over to you, and you looked at me with some dead eyes, and you went,
"I've lost
my watch is in the box at security." And I said, "Well, you should probably go back and get it." I then stood with your coffee and your croissant.
Never have we looked more like a married couple than this whole event, by the way. I was just there. I literally sprinted to the thing, tried 3 of the aisles, and the third one was the charm. It was my... I got the lucky 3. The lucky 3. She was actually really lovely at the till. She gave me my watch. I thanked her. I kissed her. I didn't.
That must be the hardest job, because they spend their whole day going... Coats off, bags off, pop them in.
Don't remove your liquids. We're just going to look at every single package now through the security gates.
And everybody then gets there and she goes, "Remember, darling, coat off." And somebody tries to walk through in a coat and she goes, "Remember, love, remember I said coat." I would be like, "You thick prick, take your coat off. You listen."
Yeah,
I get so angry.
It was great. Yeah, your patience with people and people being thick, and you were struggling with me being thick that day. Imagine other people. So that happened. I dropped my suitcase. I think about 15 times as well. I was so completely rubbish. I'm normally so organised. I'm normally so reliable, right?
Yeah.
With all of this stuff, booking stuff, I am a reliable source.
You were very flustered. So when we got on the flight, because you had an extra suitcase,
I had the hurry up.
You were speedy boarding, so you were on. But actually, we boarded at the same time on the first one. But anyway, You sat there.
Speedy boarding's a lie.
And
we all know.
You didn't listen. Didn't you just sit in silence? I think you were just in fluster mode.
I raw dogged the flight.
I don't love that.
You hate that term, and I use it only to annoy you. No, I just looked at other people's phones.
That is quite fun.
And the games that they were playing and judged them. I was like, oh, you're playing that game, are you? I'm judging you.
Tetris.
Oh, no, I like Tetris. It's good for PTSD, mate.
I know it is.
Not that I've got that, but, it relaxes me. But, the Candy Crushy type ones.
Yeah.
And you think, come on, mate, you're an adult.
Well,
play Tetris for the memories.
Well, we then arrived in Edinburgh. Edinburgh was lovely. I dropped
my suitcase again.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Edinburgh, the stand, we arrived. Your room was ready. We went into your room. The water stopped working. Sure, It was a bit of a comedy of errors.
So that's the hotel room, we should say.
Yes.
The hotel room, no water, eggy smell.
Anyway, the gig. Edinburgh, I don't think we spent too long in Edinburgh.
Edinburgh was fine. Brilliant crowd. We love you. If you were at the Edinburgh show, thank you so much for coming. You were really a highlight. Then, 4 for 4.
4 for 4.
We're running. 4 gigs have gone well. This show isn't a failure. You are not a failure, was what I was saying to myself in the mirror every morning.
You do start to get this feeling of like, this is it. This is me forever.
Maybe all of the work in progresses that didn't work was just leading up to this moment. Right.
So then we got a Flixbus. We got a coach to Glasgow, which actually was fantastic.
Flixbus, it's like £4. I don't know how they make money.
They don't.
They fling you in a direction.
Yeah.
Just referencing a small amount of my old stand-up that none of you would have heard.
They fling you in a direction, and we arrived in Glasgow. My favourite bit was the welcome to Glasgow. We had put our coats in the little upper compartment.
You're getting all the detail.
And our bag. We literally stood up when the coach arrived, put our coats on, and the driver turned around and he went, "Lads, get off, I want to go get my bus, come on."
Because he was getting a bus out of it. and he really was giving us the hurry up, and I apologised to get my suitcase from under the bus. He was like, "No, don't worry, I just need to really get my bus." Literally, as soon as I got my suitcase, he just left the bus.
Yeah.
He sprinted. I've never seen a bus driver sprint. It was great.
And then
I've certainly never seen a bus driver sprint in London.
Then
you see them when they're milling about and they're all parked up.
Yeah. Then we get to Glasgow. So we had a nice time in Glasgow. We decided to sit in George Square just to take in the vibe. It wasn't as cold up in Scotland. It was weird. We sat down, and I will say I do feel like we probably have to do a version of an accent here to make this.
I think you do the Glaswegian accent because you're good at it. I've got about 2 phrases, and I'm into a mixture of some offensive collections of languages. That's a sentence.
But a chap we were just sat looking, having a chat, and a guy walked up to us, and he just went, "You know the good thing about Glasgow?" And we were like, "Oh, okay." And he went, "It's because you have a drink." Fun.
So he said the good thing about Glasgow is that you can have a drink. I'll translate.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
We were sort of thought, oh, okay.
Oh, we've got a fun drunk who's come up and having a chat with us. We were like, that's fine. Fun drunk. It's 11 a.m. No, it was fun, right? Do you know? We were like, oh, it could just be a funny guy. There was a part of me that was worried, but we.
Then he said, "Where are you two from?" We said London, and I instantly knew what he was about I don't know how.
Should we just act this out?
I'm not a big fan on act out. Basically,
no, I'll be us and you be the Glaswegian. Come on, let's make this fun. Let's make this fun for the listeners. Because it's basically he said, she said.
Where are you from?
Well, we're from London.
London. I lived in London for 13 years. And then that is the point that my stomach dropped because I knew what was coming. I don't know whether you felt the same.
I felt an air.
I felt an air change, and then he said, "We went to the Black Cat in Camden, and it's a gay bar now. I can't imagine myself with a fucking man." And we were like, and you went, "You don't need to imagine yourself."
Oh, you don't need to imagine yourself with a man, mate. That's fine.
And then he said, quite a lot of
I
that.
should say, for the people listening to that, he was just doing a little jig.
Yeah.
He was just doing a little jig, a little sort of. He got himself into a sort of, like I would say,
loop.
A sort of homophobic loop.
Yeah.
Where he was just he kept saying the same 3 things. He was going, it's not for me. It's not man on man, it's not for me. It's not for me. No disrespect.
Well,
no, he didn't say that.
He didn't say that.
No,
so then he then asked. Basically, he spent maybe 2 minutes doing. Gay bar wasn't for me.
The lads and another lad copying off with each
I knew that you'd try and do an accent. He then pointed at you and said, "You're not gay, are you?" And you went, "Yeah, I am actually."
Yeah, I am actually.
And it was so funny if it hadn't also been a little bit scary in that he then went, oh, well, no disrespect. Despite the previous 3 minutes of disrespect.
Isn't it gross? Two men kissing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine something so awful as two men kissing? That's so disgusting. Oh my, I'm gay actually. Well, no disrespect. It was perfect timing. It was perfect. It was comedic timing. And then he doubled down.
He couldn't get himself out of the loop of he could have gone, no disrespect, off I go. But he just couldn't get out of this fucking loop.
And he was like, well, I was in the Black Cat film. We heard the Black Cat bit. And he went and was like, men just like kissing. Been offered in front of me.
He then spent most of his time chatting about that. And both of us were thinking, can you just fuck off? But we were also like, we don't want to get into a
confrontation. We were a bit nervous. I was grabbing my bag.
You had
ever so slightly tighter.
You had a lot of tech, right?
I had a lot of expensive tech on me because the show comes with tech. I was quite. I mean, I'm going to be honest. As a gay man and a person saying how disgusting kissing is, two guys kissing, and how wrong it was, and then saying the words, "Well, you're not gay, are you?" And then for some reason, me just going, actually, I am.
Well, I'm glad you
I'm
did.
a proud gay, and I'm not going to let a guy sort of try and sort of like. I don't want to hide that now. I've done that. I did that for years, 23 years to be exact. Might be a good episode to do actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sort of, I really just, it came out of my mouth very quickly.
It was good.
And it was. In some ways, it could have gone two ways.
Yeah.
It could have been quite an abusive moment, and he could have been quite abusive, or he pedalled back. And so often I've had that. I've had that at football stadiums. I've had it everywhere, where people have gone on a bit of sort of homophobic rant about something, and then I've mentioned that I'm gay, and the immediate reaction is, well, I've got gay friends. Is often the sort of one. I've got gay friends.
He then sort of kept in that loop, and we were probably there 4 minutes. He then looked at me and he went, "Oh, you're not gay, are you?" And I thought, I'm siding with Gordon here.
Yeah, you jumped shit. You were like, no, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them.
I was like, no, Gordy boy, all good.
No, I bet
all good. Don't worry about it, mate.
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me, mate. Don't worry about me. Like, yeah, it's fucking weird, isn't it? That's what you said to him. You went, it's disgusting, isn't it? Two men kissing.
We don't need that on the pod. So anyway, I said, no, I'm not. But I just sort of went, come on. I was like, yeah, thank you. We kind of went.
You'd gone into what I like to call short mode.
Short,
quite short, punchy. Get out.
I just kept going, thanks. Just basically fuck
Thanks
off.
for the homophobia. Now fuck off.
And not to be outdone, he'd done his homophobia. He then made an awful comment about.
He went basically
racism.
Yeah, he basically went, aren't there a lot of foreigners in Glasgow? And then continued to point out the foreigners in Glasgow.
Somebody walked past him.
It was the worst experience. Horrible.
Somebody walked past him and he went, look at that. And we just went, right, we're going. We are going.
We've got to go, actually, mate.
And it wasn't the worst thing that happened in Glasgow that day, everybody.
No, I mean,
Glasgow as a place is very nice.
I really loved Glasgow and still do love Glasgow. I love it as a place. I think it's one of my favourite cities in Scotland. It's beautiful, by the way. The architecture is astonishing.
Wasn't a great start with Gordon. So anyway, we parked Gordon. We went and got a pizza. And you know what? We chatted about it. And I asked you, what would you have wanted me to do in that situation? Where can I learn? Where can I improve?
And I said, knock him out, mate. Grow up there. Fucking get your fists up. Fucking get in there. Get him. Fucking smack him.
Can you imagine?
Smack him, get arrested. Have a better story to tell on the pod.
So didn't do that, but we chatted about it. And I
gutted that you didn't. I said, come on, mate, where's your uppercut? Where's your uppercut?
So anyway, we didn't do that. And I think it's right that we chatted about it. We moved on. We then got to Glasgow.
I didn't say it was wrong.
We then got to Glasgow. We got to the stand in Glasgow. The staff were delightful. The audience, 98% of them were delightful. I am going to let you lead on this because you were the person that suffered from two very difficult, and I think it's quite important at the moment, or it's certainly an interesting thing with Peter Kay throwing people out and hecklers and things like that. Over to you.
Over to me. So, Glasgow, I'm going to say this at the start, 90% of the audience enjoyed it and were lovely. They were really nice, and particularly afterwards, they all bought bags. They were a really generous, the most generous audience we've had, actually, Glasgow, from buying merch. So I would say that. I'm also going to say the stand, but in both venues, were
delightful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The venue ran the show brilliantly. They set it all up brilliantly. And we had a discussion afterwards about what would have been the best approach, and it was quite a tricky one to sort of work out.
Yeah, they were great.
So the thing that was difficult about this show is that on the front row, I had two people that were quite intent on disrupting it. So what they started doing at the start was sort of applauding at the end of punchlines, which is kind of fun. I was like, yeah, that's great. Keep doing that. It might catch on. People might start applauding the jokes. But then they started applauding in odd parts of the build-up. So not even parts of the sort of, there weren't any jokes at this point. I was just doing the build-up to a joke. And then they started applauding and then going, woo, 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 woo. So it was like in a sort of like a weird owl. And then she started going, you can do it. Randomly, which is the worst thing a comedian can ever hear. It's like, no comedian wants, you can do it.
But not
we believe in you.
But also that genuinely, I'm not saying it's okay, but that would be okay if a joke hadn't landed or you had been like...
I don't think it would be okay if a joke hadn't landed. Don't be going to comedy audiences and a joke lands and then you going, you can do it. Don't do that.
So agree, but I'm just trying to say there's context whereby if someone went, you can do it, you would go, yeah, that's actually all right for the show. This wasn't all right for the show. This was so regular that you would literally say... Well, anyway, and she'd go, you can do it. And you go, what?
It was really disrupting the flow. Yeah. And good Lord, it was hard to keep my focus because he, the partner of said audience member, so he started then piping up. After every single sentence, I would say he'd go, yeah, okay, yeah. Just quiet enough that the audience couldn't properly hear that, and I could. And the audience were starting to get a bit restless around them, weren't they, at one stage? And I did eventually unite the audience against them, created a big laugh, a big moment in the room. And I was quite proud of that because I'd gone through all of that. I'd managed to bat it off quite well and not get too angry, because it does make you the annoying thing is it makes you quite angry.
Yeah, of course.
And you have to then sort of, and there's nothing less funny than you losing your rag on stage.
Angry,
you have to channel anger in a sort of faux way, where you seem jokingly angry.
But I'm angry. But
you're angry, and you can sort of do it in a bit of a... I so almost called them a cunt. I managed to get away from that part of my brain and sort of turn the room around them, make me seem a bit like an idiot as well. Great, lovely stuff. And then it just continued and continued until the very end of the show, and I have never been more relieved to leave a stage.
Yeah, you after that you came off and you were
hour
like,
of that.
The thing
you have to separate your brain because you have to do the show because the other people are really enjoying it and not really are noticing what's going on, and you have to so you have to do that, but you're also listening to that. It's like having a producer's voice in your ear for the whole show. Really hard to work. It gives me a whole new respect for presenters.
I remember a caster in a different podcast talking about how somebody heckled him where he sat at the front on the front row and said quietly so nobody else but him could hear, do you want to suck my dick? And Acast was like, it was so off-putting. And that's similar to what you had there with that guy just going, yeah. Because I was at the back of the room. I could hear her, woo, and I could hear her clapping. I couldn't hear him doing the, yeah.
At one point I referenced it. I went, are you negging me? Are you negging me? And I'm really excited to see the Glasgow footage because there's one point going, I thought you were the nice one.
Yeah.
And then...
you did, but the thing is...
I think that's where I started to then get the audience against them a little bit because it was just getting a point where I was annoyed by them. Because at the end we sell merch, so we stand at the end.
Yes.
I have never seen two people more sheepish walk past. Did you see them? They were properly cowering behind their coats as they sort of left. They were properly... They're fine to do it when they're sort of in a sit-down environment and you're on stage, but as soon as you actually face them face-to-face, they were complete cowards.
So Glasgow was an interesting vibe, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the stand
were amazing.
They were like, we really weren't sure whether to get rid of them or not, and we thought we'd let you make that call. And I made the call, and I think that's the right decision, by the way. I made the call to sort of... Because they weren't being... It was like they were being disruptive enough for it to be annoying, but they weren't so... the crowd weren't so against...
There were other factors at play. So the story at the moment is Peter Kay throwing out people in that 20,000 seater venue. This wasn't a 20,000 seater venue.
Hey, how dare you?
I mean, imagine your nervousness at trying to sell tickets for that. But they were sat right at the front and visible because the stage lights lit them up as well. If they had been a row back or 2 or 3 rows back, I think we would have got rid of. We would have gone, just fuck. It's not for you, or it's not for me.
It's not disrespect. It was Gordon, by the way.
It was Gordon and his children.
Gordon just like, it's not for me. I feel like Glasgow was out to get me that day.
It was a toughie. We had booked an Uber back because Flixbus wasn't working on time, and the train
was so nice because he just didn't speak to us.
Oh.
We were so happy that we didn't have a chatty Uber, so we could just bitch about it for the whole
the dream. So anyway, Glasgow was what it was. We then move on to the next week. Nottingham. Now, on this podcast, we have talked a lot about Nottingham being the worrying sale.
The worrying sale. We took our eye off the ball for Salford. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, Nottingham, I tell you what, Canal House as a place, we walked into Canal House and I thought, oh, that's a quirky name of a pub. I wonder why it's called the Canal House. There's a fucking barge.
There's an actual barge.
You walk over a canal
in the pub.
while you're in it. So that was nice. The staff were lovely.
Venue staff. That is and we're not just saying that. Throughout the whole tour, everyone has been fantastic in that regard. So it's not been a venue problem.
I like Nottingham. I had a nice time.
Nottingham was fine. It didn't sell as well as we'd hoped, but it also wasn't awful.
But bear in mind that on this pod we spoke about when we were in Greece, you'd sold one ticket. We had more than one person.
We had more than one person, which is great.
We had loads.
We had the same. We had, to be honest, for all of those, the middle bit of the sort of tour, we had similar ticket sales throughout. So it wasn't going to be our highest. Basically, what I've learnt is south of Oxford, I can sell out venues. North of Oxford, we struggle a bit. And in Scotland, we do all right, but we don't sell them out.
So Nottingham, I thought the show itself was good. Thought it was fun. Salford was a room that consisted.
Salford, if you did come to Salford and you are listening to this, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
It's always really lovely seeing people come. I want to say that, but it was like performing in a library.
But
it had no energy.
The one bit I'm really interested in is it was the first audience where it was 98% gay men.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued by that.
So that's not but gay men have been coming to the show.
Yeah.
That often they're people who follow me, and that we have that thing in common. We're both homosexual, and some of my content before has been quite homosexual focused.
Just for Gordon, when he says we're both homosexual, he's talking about the audience there.
Yeah,
I'm still not.
You're still
Please
not.
Don't knock me out, Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon's just actually outside this bit.
It's
this
not
building,
for me.
Going, it's not for me. Coming back.
I love
and then
that.
the other girls just going, woo, woo. You can do it.
They must follow you in your dreams.
Oh well, they do. Every time I close my eyes, the flashback of this girl. Going, woo! You can do it. You can sleep. No, I can't. Not with you in my head. So anyway, to have new characters up there, though.
The gay men.
So
I would say they really, really liked you for 30 minutes.
For 30 minutes, it was such a shame.
It's a shame that the show's an hour.
The show's an hour, but it was just one of those shows that I could not get the energy through it.
You got some very sweet. Messages afterwards from people saying really enjoyed it. So,
yeah, do you know what? It's one of those where you just you tick it off and you go ahead, you go on.
And then we went to Liverpool.
Liverpool's great.
And this is the first time you've seen me collapse in on myself.
So Liverpool, if you've never been to hot water comedy, do go. It is quite an experience. They've done an unbelievable thing there in terms of they built a comedy club and then they built a whole outdoor indoor market thing, which has loads of food. It's unbelievably good what they've managed to achieve, and they've got 3 or 4 venues. I was in one of the smaller ones.
I do think it's worth saying you walk into this place and it's Liverpool on a Saturday, so it was busy.
Everton were playing.
This place was rammed. It's like Box Park in Croydon.
It's not too far from Everton's new stadium either, which is.
So we were in that. We walked in. And we hadn't had any information in terms of where do we go, what do we do. We were kind of like, whoa. And I very much was like, this is so busy. I am struggling. And then we walked into what we thought was the comedy room. That was a 600-seater. That the moment we opened the door, 600 people came out of the door.
It was so I'm all right in crowds. I'm not too bothered.
I'm okay.
By them. I've never seen you fall apart so quickly. Ems, it was like I've never seen you actually. Finally, guys, and I think you'll know in the podcast, we often talk about the fact that you have no worries and nothing bothers you, apart from people who are late or shit in an airport, or people at the airport not getting their coats off or stuff.
Sure.
You have little annoyances, but nothing really troubles you, to your core. Until a large crowd of Liverpudlians.
But it wasn't that. It was more the volume of people and the fact that I didn't know where we were supposed to go. I like to plan stuff, but I just thought, I'm just going to stand at this table and stare into the middle distance. So that's what I did.
But I couldn't get you out of that.
Not for a bit.
Like you had zoned out.
Yeah.
Until we got into the venue and started.
I'd zoned out.
You'd I was talking to you and it was just bouncing through the walls of your head and bouncing right back out.
I was just looking at the scores coming in, and I thought, just think,
batten down the hatches, Emslie. You'll be out of here soon.
Just think about that. But then Liverpool, Lovely.
Liverpool's a great one. We don't have much to report. I think we're wrapping up to a close in terms of tour chat.
Yes, yeah.
But it was a... everyone who's come so far, I just want to say thank you so much for coming, because it has been wonderful. Liverpool was a really fun experience. This is the first tour. I'm learning a hell of a lot, and I'm being very candid. This is unusual for comedians to talk about their failures at quite amount of detail that I have. But I wanted to be clear with you that it's been a wonderful thing. The tour's been wonderful, and the show I'm really proud of. But not every tour goes smoothly. And if you're a comedian listening to that, I hope that helps.
As we move away from tour chat, I am going to pivot us to the fact that after Liverpool, we drove back home. So it took 4 and a bit hours to get home. So we got home at 2:30 a.m.
You got home at 2:30 a.m.
I got home at 2. You got home at
2:30.
Yeah. But one thing I wanted to pick off...
In bed by 3.
And talk about...
Asleep by 3:45.
was we stopped at a services to get some food because we hadn't eaten. Knutsford at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. That's not late.
This is our new section of what the fuck are you doing, Knutsford?
We walked in and everywhere was closed. Every food joint, is that what it called?
On a Saturday evening. Well, yeah.
10 p.m.
Evening, 10 p.m. People surely are travelling and need food. Knutsford, never go. Awful services.
Awful, horrible.
Dreadful people.
So
people are probably lovely. But Knutsford, no, the people have decided on when things run and close in Knutsford. Have a good hard look at yourself, okay?
I always think that people in services, anybody that goes to them, you're going out of necessity. You're not going because you want to be there, unless it's T-Bay. But I always think everybody is just a little bit more miserable in the services. And we were hungry, we were tired, and they closed at 10. And to be fair, we couldn't do anything about it. We carried on and went to another one.
Well,
but
we just said very loudly, this is the worst services I've ever been to.
To nobody.
Never coming back. No, of course, we're to ourselves.
No, there was nobody there.
You know when you say things loudly and hope people overhear?
Yeah, but nobody was there.
No one was there.
So anyway, that's the tour chat, I think. What have we got coming up next? We've got Brighton, and then we've got Norwich.
And Norwich, and then we are sort of a bit of a break for me, and then I've got a new date that I'm about to release.
Ooh, little teaser.
Not a teaser, it's going to be Leeds. And I'm doing an hour and a half at Leeds, so you get an hour and a half of me.
Has he learnt anything from not...
With a little bit of a break in between, don't worry, you're not going to have to just watch me for an hour and a half.
Has he learnt anything from not selling above Oxford? No!
So, if you haven't signed up to my mailing list, which is on my Instagram, do that. It's on my links on my Instagram, because I'll be releasing them early there.
Oh, will you?
Yeah, the venue don't know that yet, but that's what's going to happen.
Okay, fair. Well, the tour's been lovely. It's been a delight to spend so much time with you, and I feel like we've just had a lot of fun.
Do you know what the greatest thing about having a tour that there are inevitably ebbs and flows with all tours. There are venues that to be honest, we've had 6 out of 8 have been absolutely banging and have been good. Been the couple that have been
difficult, more difficult.
I'm classing Glasgow as a good one, by the way, despite the issues. Because it was still a really fun show. Mm-hmm. We had lots of fun moments, and every show has really been very different.
Yep.
So I've really loved it. But the best thing is when you've got a person that knows the way your brain works and knows how to take the piss out of you
at the right time
to just make light of any difficult scenarios. I've got that with Emslie. I'm stifling a burp. I'm not getting emotional. I should just say, because I drank some water earlier and drank a lot of air with it. But it's been so funny.
But also be serious at the right times with the thing that happened with Gordon. I think that is an important thing.
We didn't do much serious.
But only in that we chatted about.
We basically were on a repeat from walking from there to the pizza place, going no disrespect. But
yeah,
and that became.
But I do think we had serious stuff. I also think. For example, we were in Honest Burger and I was talking to you and you were gone.
Yeah,
you needed to be at the venue. And I just said, I'll deal with this.
Doors were open 5 minutes and we were still getting an Honest Burger.
Yeah.
That's a fair one for me. And you were like, yeah, you go.
I was like, you go.
I need to eat.
I'll deal with this.
You were being led by your stomach. I was being led by the show.
Yeah.
I followed your stomach for a bit and then went back to the show.
Yeah, I brought it. It all worked out. But we had a lovely time.
Salford? Sorry, if you were at Salford again, thank you so much for coming.
But that's been the tour update. I think that's it.
That is, guys, that's the tour update. We'll be going off tour chat for the next few episodes.
Yes.
So that is going to be your last bundle of tour, I'm afraid. Probably
forever. For a bit.
But at least we had some stories to tell, didn't we?
Yeah, didn't we?
We had some stories to tell, and it's been a real ride. My first ever tour. I've learnt a lot.
We've got 2 pull quotes. A pull quote is something you might put on your poster for future shows. One is from Gordon. It's not for me.
It's not for me.
And number 2 was from a lovely gentleman in Nottingham, like a young chap who I think had come with his friend, who went, to be fair, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
which was a lovely thing to say.
Every comedian wants as a review. To be fair, it wasn't that bad. He was very young, bless him.
He was very sweet. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a real pleasure. You've zoned out.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I was just planning a funny thing at the end.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we'll carry on.
Well, now I've said it out. It's not going to be funny now.
Well, please watch our YouTube. Subscribe our YouTube if you would like to. Please rate, review.
Literally, a few people are doing that, and we really respect you.
And that's fine. And other than that, always a pleasure. Never a chore. Be good yourself. All right?
No disrespect.
It's not for me.
It's not for me.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it.